We go to the front page of the Telegraph, and we reported in our news bulletins there about the Blair Institute with Tony Blair at its head, and they're saying that GCSEs and A-levels not fit for purpose. To thrive in a world of AI and automation, people will need skills that complement these technologies.
Well, this is the man who gave us education back about 20 years ago. And it's very interesting that Tony Blair and indeed Gordon Brown have been rather prominent in the news recently with various aspects of public policy, more so, dare I say, than Keir Starmer has in many ways.
And the reasoning behind that, is that deliberate?
I think it's ex-Prime Minister syndrome, when they want to do something and still contribute to public life. And why shouldn't they? Because they've been in a position of power, so they know what's going on to some extent. But I think it's interesting, Blair's not simply related to education. He's been talking about COVID, talking about Ukraine, a whole range of issues. But on this, there's a grain of truth, I think, in what he says.
Yes.
Of course, that we have to make sure that people are skilled for the future, and what that means at any particular time is different from what it meant in the past. Having said that, there are certain basics in education that are perennial. People need to be able to read and write properly, need to be able to undertake mental arithmetic.
What he's saying is that we need to educate youngsters for the workplace.
Yes, we do.
For the jobs available. And I suppose we'd all sit and we look at what we studied when we were at school, and there's certain things I'm very proud to have studied, and I feel quite good that I have a qualification in that or whatever. But then I look and I think, have I ever used it? What's the point? What yardstick are you measured by?
I could have done without doing woodwork, I might tell you, at school. Yeah. But I'm useless at. But one of the great sadnesses for me is, and I speak to someone with a degree in German, is how foreign languages have just disappeared or disappearing from our state system.
Yes.
It's more important than ever in international capacity that we're in to be able to have people learning Mandarin, learning Russian.
But do we just assume that everybody's speaking English? Is that what we
do? And you know, I was on a train I think it was in Belgium, and the conductor, who presumably wasn't on a great wage, made an announcement in Dutch, in Flemish, in French, and in German.
Yes.
And I spoke to him in French to ask a question.
Yeah.
He then answered me in perfect English. So this guy had 5 languages.
And did he answer you with, what?
No. Nor did he shout louder as if that made up for it.
May I just say one thing about the Tony Blair Institute?
Yeah.
It is the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change. And you know, they've been piping up on all sorts. They've been saying that the government should mandate face masks again, that there should be further restrictions for COVID come the winter. And I do wonder whether people really want to be hearing from Tony Blair.
But what does it say about our opposition, though, when you've got an ex-Labour Prime Minister on our front pages?
Well, that's true. It's not good for Keir Starmer. I imagine Keir Starmer doesn't like it.
I just think this summer really should be, you know, a really high point for the Labour Party. This is a summer of strikes. I mean, they should be giving the Tories a hard time. We're not seeing Keir Starmer on the front of our newspapers. We're seeing Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, I think.
But I do think the point that they have here is people haven't even factored in AI yet. AI is going to make... We'll just take the train workers, for instance. There's going to be robot trains, robot ticket collectors, whatever. Jobs are going to be at a premium. AI will take over. And I know the headmaster of a grammar school in Belfast, and he said to me, they are changing their curriculum to be less academic and more in tune with what the workforce... They have now meetings with the workforce that the big companies like PricewaterhouseCoopers or whatever who are setting up in Belfast, and they're saying, who do you want? What way do you want them educated? And they feel they're doing their pupils a better service than educating them necessarily for tertiary education. With that, I do think it is an interesting thing that, I mean, Northern Ireland is a very good example. Northern Ireland educates youngsters to a very high degree, but they educate them for export. There's no jobs there for them. And I think what the schools are trying to say is, let's try and keep these kids in the country and give them jobs. So from that point of view, Emily, I think there's some sense in what they're saying here.
Yes, certainly. But what I would say is that our schools aren't getting the basics right. A huge number of children leave school essentially unable to read and write properly. Yeah. Which is a travesty, really. It's a scandal. And, of course, lockdown and the closure of schools has only served to make that worse. So I do think that it's important that schools give those basic skills, impart those basic skills to children. And I do worry about sort of the government trying to centrally plan what skills are going to be needed for the future, because invariably they get these things wrong.
They get them